Howdy once again, everybody. I'm David Poulsen, working alongside Dustin Edwards as we welcome you to another edition of CFR Flashback, the show where we look back at 365 days ago at CFR 2019. And of course, we're talking about night number 2. And, Dustin, we talk about all of the elements, everything from Sean Morton's music, the amazing Nikki Flundra's openings, and we're missing it all. And we all wish we were in Red Deer, but it's kind of fun to look back on night number 2. It had some great moments again, and let's talk about some of those right now.
Well, yes, and I even missed Dennis Halstead's joke, so that's telling you how much I'm really missing rodeo and the Canadian finals.
Bad, man.
No, but you're right. In night number 1, everybody's adrenaline is just right through the roof, and you're so excited for the Canadian finals rodeo. And once in a while, it feels like that second performance, you kind of start to go down a little bit, and everybody's kind of, feeling okay, and the nerves are gone. But I'll tell you what, the competition on night number 2 was just as good, if not better, than night 1. And we saw some people rise up once again. And I always love performance number 2. It's kind of a redemption from the first night, and just a really good chance to watch the competition rise to another level.
And I know that you spotted a couple of early rides again in the bareback riding that kind of jumped out at you.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to sound like a big bareback riding fan starting out with this both nights. But to watch Cole Goodine on night number 2 jump out, he was matched up with Special Delivery of the Calgary Stampede. He wins round 2, a great bareback ride. And, he was plagued by injury throughout most of the season. I remember him having a claw to get back to the Canadian finals. So to watch him win that round, it was jubilation on his face when he got off that horse. So I thought that was a really exciting way to kick off the Wednesday night performance.
Well, for me, I looked at the saddle bronc riding and Colby Wanchuk, and we are so blessed in Canada to have this amazing stable of young saddle bronc riders that are just so talented on the world stage as well as the Canadian stage. And Colby Wanchuk is certainly one of those guys. He showed exactly what he was made of in round number 2, and he jumped out and made a spectacular ride to win the round. He was on comeback red from the Outlaw Buckers, 85.5 points. And then, unfortunately for Colby, things went a little sideways after the ride. In fact, it was during his victory lap that he hit his leg on the fence going out of the arena after the victory lap, and that certainly hampered him for the rest of the week. But this was a great moment by a great young saddle bronc rider. And of course, our guest last night, Edgar Durazzo, well, he just wins another round, the middle round of 3 in a row that he won to kick off Canadian Finals Rodeo 2019, and made it so hard for him to be caught. And in fact, he never was. He did emerge as the champion. So, but another young lady who shone at night number 2 and throughout the Canadian Finals Rodeo after a tough start is our guest tonight. And you said it so well. We get a chance to introduce our Canadian champions. Normally, we do that throughout the course of the season at all the rodeos that we're at. But, of course, in 2020, we're not able to do that. So we're very, very proud to be able to introduce our special guest tonight, the 2019 Barrel Racing Champion of Canada, Brooke Wills. Let's bring her in right now. Well, here she is now, and we're so very, very proud to be able to introduce to you our 2019 Canadian Barrel Racing Champion, Brooke Wills. Brooke, welcome to CFR Flashback, and thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Brooke, first off, I want to ask the question, of course, we just introduced you as the 2019 Canadian champion, which is probably pretty exciting to hear. Didn't get to hear a lot of it without the rodeos. But I want to go back. We learned a lot about you last year at the CFR and watched you progress throughout the week. But, who is Brooke Wills, the barrel racer, the athlete, prior to becoming the Canadian champion? What was your journey to get to this point in 2019?
I always rode horses. I think I started riding when I was 2, and my dad rodeoed, so that's how we got into it. My mom never rode, and we just started at a really young age and just went through the ranks of Pee-wees, Little Britches, junior rodeos, and then amateur rodeoed for quite a while and had some nice horses in that. And then I think I filled my pro card in 2011 and just kind of bounced back and forth from pro rodeos and amateur rodeos, just kind of depended on the level of horse I had. And really what kind of took me to the next level was just having my horse that I have now, Famey. She has just opened so many doors, and I kind of owe a lot of my success to her.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your journey in 2019 through the Canadian Finals Rodeo, because it didn't start well. That first performance, you're at your very first Canadian Finals Rodeo. You got to be super excited, and doggone if you don't go out and knock down a couple of barrels. Now, I got to ask you, what was going through your mind after that? Did you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I've blown it, or hey, I can still come back, I'm going to have to do it in the go-arounds? Or well, what was the thought process of Brooke Wills after tough night number one?
I actually wasn't really worried at all. I wasn't disappointed or upset or down on myself, because to me, they were really small mistakes that I knew I could fix pretty easily. Like I kind of knew going into it, I just needed to get the first one out of the way. Didn't really matter how it went. I kind of wish I only hit one barrel and not two, because that actually played a big part in the average. But I mean, no barrels would be better, but I wasn't really worried at all, and just small things, and then just kind of knew I had to go for the go-rounds.
And that's exactly, of course, what you did. You went on to have just an amazing finals, but you alluded to your horse a minute ago. Let's talk a little bit about Fame's to Blame, and maybe the breeding and how you acquired the horse and came together, the two of you, to be just a great combination.
Yeah, so Famey is by Lion's Share of Fame, and out of a really good mare named SX Frenchman's Peach. And she is 9, and she is incredible and has a huge personality and is quirky and loves her job. So I got her from Ivy Conrado in the fall of 2018. So I didn't really have a lot of rodeos to go to. I took her to our amateur finals here, and she won all 4 go-rounds and kind of had success right off the bat. And then took her to Arizona that winter and rodeo down there, and she won 3 rodeos in Arizona and 1 in Washington. So it was kind of just instant success, and I wasn't even really looking for a horse at all at the time. Ivy had just texted me and kind of had asked if I, knew anyone who was looking, and I kind of thought it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. So we made it work, and that's how we got Famey.
Well, I asked this question last night to Edgar Durazo, looking at the 2019 rodeo season. Was there a point in the year or a certain rodeo win or somewhere along the line in 2019 that you knew you really had a really good shot at contending for a Canadian Finals or a Canadian title?
I was lucky to not fall out of the top 12 all year. There was at some point kind of later on in the season, like I had dropped down a little bit, but I was pretty confident around like Pincher and Cranbrook weekend that I had secured my spot there. And then she worked really, really good in the fall. She won Olds and placed super high at Armstrong and won Merit. And then that was a really big boost in the standing. So that's kind of when I knew I was like for sure 100% in. But I mean, everyone always wants to win a Canadian title, but, I just kind of went in with no expectations. So then for it to happen, it was just kind of mind blowing.
Well, it sounds like you and your horse were really peaking at the right time, as you say, getting hot in the fall, heading into the Canadian Finals rodeo. It can't go any better than that. Yeah. So let's go back. Okay, so we had that tough opening round. You put that behind you. You can kind of fix things up, and then the second round it went okay. It was certainly better, and then from then on, of course, there was a third, 2 firsts, and a second over the final 4 rounds. So take us through that development of the week and how the confidence and all of that, the new building and all of the things that you had to go through along with Famey to really contend for that title.
Yeah, so she worked good in the second round and was just a little out of placing. And I hadn't ran her I hadn't ran her CFR, so I knew it would kind of take a few runs to get her, really going. And then it just felt really good in the third round to pick up my first check, because then I wasn't skunked. That was all I kind of wanted. If I just got a little something, then I could at least say that they didn't skunk me there. And then she worked awesome, after the third round. And she does typically get stronger with every run you make in the same arena. And so it really worked out.
I got to ask, is the thrill of riding out of the tunnel, making your first run at the Canadian finals, as exciting as riding out for a go-round victory lap?
They're both pretty exciting. I'd say going in is to make my run. That was almost the hardest part, because you kind of had to go in and make a bit of a corner, and Fanny can be a little strong when she decides to go, and I think I hit my foot a few nights. And so making the victory laps, they weren't too bad, as long as you didn't try to hit the pickup or any other people, and then you were good.
You talked about your family being rodeo people, and it's in your DNA to be a barrel racer, and your sisters, of course, are the same way. But how important was it for you? Everybody, or most of the people at the Canadian Finals rodeo, the contestants have their families there. But for you, young person at your very first finals, how important was it to have that family support on a tough night like opening round, and then on those celebration nights a little bit later in the week?
It was so important to me, and really it was so fun. They knew I could do it, and they knew I had the horse to do it. And my grandparents, who are like 82, they came out, and my grandpa's health isn't doing so great now. So it was really important to me and special that he got to come out. And they used to go to every single rodeo when we were younger, like every rodeo. And he wrote down times for every rodeo, and he has kept all the programs. So you can go back to like 2000, 2001, and he has all the programs. So him being there, and my grandma, and my friends, and all my sisters, and some of my extended family and boyfriend, they were all there. So it was so special to have everyone there.
Well, that's of course why we do it, for moments like that. And I think that's super important. And you talk about family, but how about the group of ladies that participate at the Canadian Finals, because it is an elite group. And I always love seeing the pictures of, it must be a tradition yearly where the girls and sponsors put in things. It looks like you guys have robbed a trade show, but it's kind of like all the free swag you get. Talk about all the goodies that you get being a finalist at the CFR, because there's a ton of things in there.
Oh, you get so spoiled. Like, that was one of the cool things. It was just like, oh my gosh, like you get to go to the CFR, but you also get all the gifts too. And they went all out. I use like pretty much everything that was all gifted to us, and they're so special. And the group of girls that year was they were amazing. I didn't have anyone down in the alley with me. I usually don't really need help, and just kind of like to stick to myself. So when I had won my first go round, I didn't have anyone to hold Famie or take her back or anything. So lots of the girls stepped up and took her back, and I just told them, you can just tie her up. You don't have to unsaddle her. I feel like I was asking too much, and I'd get back there and they'd have her watered and unsaddled. And so it was a really, really great group of girls.
So take us through a day in the life of Brooke Wills during the Canadian Finals rodeo. What sort of things were you trying to kind of concentrate on the rodeo, or kind of keep it out of your mind, or spending time with family and friends? How did it go that way?
It always seemed like you were pretty busy. I went to morning practice every morning, and then Katie Imler from Cooley Equine, she came out and pro-scoped Famie every day. So she would either come kind of early in the morning or in the afternoon. So, and then, just making sure that you had all your kind of fed before and everything, like all prepped and ready. And so I was at the barn a lot and probably didn't eat as much as I should to. I did have some time, but for the most part, it was just kind of me and my horse, and my boyfriend drove me everywhere and was with me a lot too. So I see my family a lot during the day. It was mostly kind of just with Amy and making sure she was all good.
Now, of course, you know, I was up doing the Flow Rodeo broadcast, and I always like to do the math and try and see if I can figure out who's winning and who's got the best odds. At what point in the week, or was it the last run? Was it the last day, or your second round win on performance number 5? When was it when you thought, geez, I've got a real legitimate chance here to be a Canadian champion? Or when did you find out? Kind of talk us through knowing that you just put your name in the history books.
I think it was about round 5. I would see the results at the end of the night and who was leading. And I think it was kind of going into the last round, and they had the top 4. And then for the opening ceremony on the last round, they had the 3 of us go down and, just kind of like, here's your people that are, have a shot at it. So to be able to do that was kind of just crazy to me. But I wasn't really too worried. Even if I hit a barrel or something in the last round, I was just so happy with how the week went, and just so happy to be there that I was not nervous at all, because it had kind of already exceeded all my expectations. So then to win it was, it was incredible, but I really had no nerves at all going into it.
Now, having won that first one, do you start looking ahead to future seasons, and do you want to try to repeat? I would think that would certainly be a goal, but what are the goals, the future goals of Brooke Wills after that Canadian title?
I definitely want to make it back to the CFR, and I was really, really looking forward to Calgary this year, because I've always wanted to go there, and I thought Amy would run really well there. So that one was kind of a bummer, but I think, the goal is to just qualify back to CFR again and kind of dabble a little bit down in the States a bit more, and maybe, I don't want to say make a run for the NFR, but kind of dip my toes down there a little bit more and see how it goes, and, see if there's a possibility to kind of rodeo down there a bit more.
I just wanted to add, I had seen that this past year in 2019, you win a Canadian title, but back home you were named, I believe it was the Kamloops Athlete of the Year. Is that right? That must have been a pretty cool honor, because that encompasses every single sport, hockey, figure skating, you name it. So how cool was that to represent rodeo and be the Athlete of the Year for Kamloops?
I was really honored to win that award, because like you said, I just, you compete against just very, just not your everyday sports, but kind of, and it's, for rodeo to win and be recognized, I was very, very honored, and, because I feel like sometimes it doesn't always get looked at as an athletic sport, but it truly is. And like the amount of hours and time and training that you put in is the same as what other people would put in for, soccer and baseball and hockey. And so it's, or, even more, because we drive so much. And so it was truly an honor to win that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you. You alluded earlier to the fact that you're going to dip your toe in the American rodeo scene a little bit more in coming years, and you went to the Ram National Circuit Finals in Greeley this year. Normally it's in Kissimmee, but of course it got moved with COVID and so on. And talk a little bit about that experience and how you fared down there.
That was really fun. It just felt so good to be back at a rodeo. I think that was probably one of the biggest things. And I was a little nervous because I had entered 2 rodeos on the way down, and she felt okay, but I hadn't ran her in probably 6 months, and just trying to save every run I have on her. And so I was a little nervous if she'd be a little rusty, but she worked so good. I think we were 3rd in the first round and maybe 4th in the second round. We tied for 3rd in the average, and made the semifinals against like the best in the world. So it was a super fun experience. I was so happy it was in Greeley. The pen really suited Famey. It was a big, wide open arena and barrels off the fence and kind of what she likes and harder ground. So it worked out for me that it was in Greeley, and it was fun. And I didn't really want it to be over afterwards. I was like, oh, I don't really want to drive home. I kind of want to enter more rodeos.
And what's that like to, I'm sure they introduced you as the Canadian champion. That was probably one of the first times you were able to kind of ride representing our nation and representing the title.
Yeah, I was lucky this winter that I got to go to San Antonio and Fort Worth and Denver and some of the big rodeos down there, and I got to go to the American. So I was lucky that I, compared to some of the other girls, did actually get to go to some rodeos. So I got to hear it a little bit that winter, and then it just kind of sucked that there was a big break and, didn't get to hear it for a little while. So it was nice to hear it again in Greeley.
Now, besides Greeley and as you mentioned, some of those American rodeos, what else has Brooke Wills been up to since that 2019 Canadian Finals and that championship? What's kept you busy in 2020?
I've got a job this summer because there's no rodeo, so I've just been working for a road maintenance company here, and that's been keeping me busy. And then my family and I, we have a whole bunch of colts. So I got to take a few to the futurities and derbies. So I got to compete and probably spend more time with my colts than what I normally would because I'm normally never home. So just went to little jackpots and worked lots, and it was definitely a different year.
I saw Brooke, Dustin, at the futurity here in Claresholm this past weekend. And I should tell you a little story of the kind of girl that Brooke is, that she's, a couple of little secret things here. But my wife, Barb, and Dustin will know this, is somewhat anal about her computer. And as she says, her whole life is on that computer. And as a result, I am never given the responsibility of having the computer because she knows that I would probably leave it somewhere. So, however, at this particular futurity, she did have some duties in the arena, and she left the computer with me. And so I said to Brooke, okay, Brooke, we're going to put something together here. You take the computer and you go hide somewhere with the computer. And when Barb comes back, I'll look askant that, oh gosh, I thought it was right here. And I just want to thank Brooke for being my accomplice because it worked out very well. Barb freaked out exactly as I thought she would. And that was the whole point. But there's a little evil side to Brooke Wills. She kind of, that's what I saw. Thanks, Brooke. But watch out for Barb. She'll be coming for you.
I know. I'm looking for her.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, it's just about time that we wrap things up on night number 2 of our CFR Flashback, and it was really special to have our wonderful guest in Brooke Wills with us. And Dustin, maybe just before we leave though, tell people how they can watch like last night's show and this one, if you're not with us when it's actually run live at 7:00 again tomorrow night. How else can people pick up the show?
Absolutely. So make sure you just check out the social media. The link is on our Rodeo Canada website, and it's on demand, so you can watch these. They're live to the internet now from now on. So click on them, watch them back, pick some favorite moments, and keep joining us nightly. They will air 7:00 on the button on YouTube Live, and then they're on demand for your viewing pleasure after that. So enjoy them. Watch last night's interview with Edgar Durazo if you missed it, and all the exciting ones we have still to come this week.
All right. Well, with that, friends, we bid you a good evening, and thanks for being with us. And we hope you'll join us again tomorrow night at 7:00 as we look back 365 days to round 3 of Canadian Finals Rodeo 2019. I'm David Poulsen with Dustin Edwards and Brooke Wills, our special guest. So long, everybody. See you next time.